What is up? Osiris here, stuck in the middle. I'm going to start off with a statement that Donald Trump released today, April 8th, 2021. The statement by Donald Trump, this is in response to the bill that passed in Arkansas. But at first, Asa Hutchinson vetoed this bill, and Donald Trump has this reply. I'm going to get into the interview with Tucker Carlson and Asa Hutchinson and why it's so fascinating. There's a lot of fascinating things to me going on here. The statement by Donald Trump, 45th President of the United States of America, Asa Hutchinson, the lightweight rhino, Republican in name only, governor of Arkansas, just vetoed a bill that banned the chemical castration of children, all caps. Bye-bye, Asa, that's the end of him. Fortunately for the great state of Arkansas, Sarah Huckabee Sanders will do a fantastic job as your next governor. So there's a lot going on here, and this is a mistake. This is a bad play, in my opinion, by Donald Trump, and I disagree with him fundamentally on this. This is a good example of why Republicans are a dying party. The tone that you're going to see here, the tone that you heard in this letters, just like a Donald Trump tweet. He's basically got the upside of the tweet where he can still get it on Twitter, but he doesn't make mistakes, has more characters. In some ways, the ban off of Twitter has helped him. I don't know if it overall has, but he's better doing these than getting in trouble on Twitter. He even said that in an interview recently. So he doesn't have any ideology. Remember that. This is a political move by Trump. Basically, just last month, or almost 2 months ago, a month and a half ago, Asa Hutchinson came out openly and said, I'm not down with MAGA anymore. I'm not down with Trump. And we know as soon as you say you're not down with Trump anymore, he will eviscerate you. You're either his boy or you're his worst enemy. And so this is a great example of how it's not just Democrats who try to interject politics into everything and interject politics into every walk of your life. This is Donald Trump and the Republicans doing it. It's a really bad mistake in the way he did it. Obviously, his goal here was to prop up his girl, Sarah Huckabee Sanders. That I don't have a problem with. But don't use this bill that affects people who are going through some very difficult decisions as far as the gender of their children for an insensitive tweet that really is meant to diss someone who just dissed you and to prop up Sarah Huckabee Sanders. On top of that, fundamentally, I'm going to get into that, I do not agree with this tweet at all, just on the basis of his point of disagreeing with the bill being vetoed. Great example of a dying party. Does that tone sound like a political party that has a future 10 years from now? No, it just doesn't. And that's why they can't have too many people voting. Right now, I don't care what other people say. The Republican Party is, if you had ballots, mail-in ballots raining from the sky, and we're looking at federal level, Senate and POTUS, the more votes, so you have ballots all over the place, the more people that vote, that's going to favor Democrats. And it's because of takes like this, and not just the take, the tone. That is, have some respect. You can disagree, but there are some topics that need some respect. Like they need some class. And Trump is like a quarterback who doesn't do anything but throw darts. Sometimes you need that Tom Brady touch. You need a little bit of touch to get it over a linebacker and into the hands of a tight end or something. Everything can't be a bullet pass. And that's one of the weakness, probably his biggest weakness for Trump. So it's no surprise he attacked Asa Hutchinson right after Asa Hutchinson abandoned ship. But here's the thing, I have a problem with Asa. He's going on with Tucker, and he's not prepared. we saw Tucker and Kristi Noem go at it. I don't know if he's trying to run for 2024. That's irrelevant, though. If you're Asa, Tucker is acting like he's going to run for president in 2024, whether he wants to or not. He's taking the MAGA lane, and he's going after his competition, Kristi Noem. He's going after, this is a cheap, easy one for him to go after, a Republican governor who just went against Donald Trump. So you see all that background. We're going to get to this video now, and this is where I'm going to react to the to what happened here. So this is an interview about the bill that Asa Hutchinson vetoed. So just to be clear, there's a bill out there, and Asa Hutchinson has the opinion that you should not get in the way of a family making that decision with a medical expert. He did get vetoed by his state legislators, who said, yes, we are going to restrict that ability when we look at youth gender reassignment.
Now, I think of you as a conservative. Here you've come out publicly as pro-choice on the question of chemical castration of children. What changed?
This is hostile, and Asa should have been ready for this. Let's hear what he says.
Well, first of all, your teaser as you led into this program did not accurately represent the bill. If this had been a bill that simply prohibited chemical castration, I would have signed the bill. But Tucker,
I have no idea what he's talking about. So why are you using that term, chemical castration? That is a completely biased BS spin on, hormone therapy or these puberty blockers, these type of things that are used for families who are going through something which is not many families are going through this. I think he says later in the interview is about 200, but this is a serious thing, a thing that should have respect. Are you using the term that Tucker's using and Trump used after this interview? That's a mistake. You shouldn't use that term. And I don't even understand his stance. If you're against it, I don't understand why he vetoed the bill. It's confusing. And Tucker didn't even follow up on that because that wasn't his goal. Tucker's goal was to eviscerate this dude.
as you know, this bill was overbroad, it was extreme, and went far beyond what you just said. And I made it clear that if this was about prohibiting procedures, sex reassignment surgery, absolutely, I would have signed that bill. But this, again, is the first law in the nation that invokes the state between medical decisions, parents who consent to that, and the decision of the patient. And so this goes way too far. And in fact, it doesn't even have a grandfather clause that those young people that are under hormonal treatments,
if I could just correct
you
you for a second. Well, this is chemical castration, of course. If you stop puberty and suppress the sex hormones, you're chemically castrating someone. So our description was correct.
Stop. I'm going to interject. This is a hostile interview. If I were Asa Hutchinson, I'm jumping in. No, hold up. Hold up now. You're using this term, chemical castration. That is not a medical term. That's your term. My role as governor is I'm protecting a minor, their guardians, and a doctor who all agree that this is the right procedure, that they can go ahead and do that. They wouldn't call it chemical castration. That's not very, I don't know why you're so angry about this, Tucker. That's a harsh term. You have your right to use that term, but I'm protecting the right of the family to make their own decision and to use whatever term they want to call it. They could call it a life-saving term for their kid. So right now, Tucker, I need to know, why are you so angry about this? What does that have to do with you? And so, no, it's not a correct term. It's an opinion. And no one's right or wrong. You can have your opinion, and I'm protecting a family that has a different opinion. He has to jump in right here. He's not ready. This guy is an old school 80s, 90s classic Republican establishment dude who thinks pulling up Ronald Reagan is going to save him when he's in trouble.
But let me just ask you, I mean, there are all kinds of, we're talking about minors, children here, and there are all kinds of things in Arkansas kids in every state are not allowed to do. Get married, drink a beer, get a tattoo. Why do you think it's important for conservatives to make certain that children can block their puberty, be chemically castrated? Why is that a conservative value?
I'm not here to be Mr. Super Conservative, Tucker. Tucker, you sound like you're trying to run for president in 2024. You've used the word conservative probably 5 times in 2 minutes. I don't deal with labels. I make decisions that are the best for my constituents in Arkansas. You brought up youth. Like, why can't an 18-year-old drink? Tucker, if a 16-year-old has consent from their parents and a doctor that says they need to drink, then I'm all for it. Obviously, that doesn't happen. So you're not comparing apples to apples. Stop. He's not ready for this discussion. When you're a politician like Asa Hutchinson, you need staff around you to prep you. So if I'm a staffer for him, I'm like, wait, are you not ready for going on Tucker Carlson? I don't know if you watched the show or not, but this is, and what his goals are to be in that Trump lane, to attack you. He attacked Kristi Noem, who has much higher respect and standing than you. He's going to go ham on you. You're not ready. And he gets destroyed by Tucker.
If you would tell us.
Well, first of all, you have parents involved in very difficult decisions. You have physicians that are involved in these decisions. And I go back to William Buckley. I go back to Ronald Reagan, the principles of our party.
Mistake. Don't go back to Reagan. That's an old school Republican thing. It pretty much pre-Trump. They would always bring up Reagan, Reagan this, Reagan that, just like the Democrats with Obama. They both represented the happy, charismatic face of the establishment. What does he have to do with this decision? Don't bring him up. And then you allow Tucker to attack later on that Reagan thing.
Which believes in a limited role of government. Are we as a party abandoning a limited role of...
He should not be going with this, are we as a party stuff. Like, how he doesn't know he has no, I will bet money I know more about the pulse of the big picture politics than he does. He has no idea. Nobody's eating that stuff up anymore. That's like the Mitch McConnell stuff. Why do you think Mitch McConnell's talking about, I might have to get out of here? No one is eating that kind of stuff up. Well, we are the party of a limited government. I know, I agree with that. That's what he's saying, but you don't need to say it like that. You need to say it like, Tucker, are you telling me that you know better than a family to make this decision, and a minor, the family, and their doctor? Are you the one that wants to make this decision? What else do you want the government in people's lives for? You're sounding crazy. How does that decision affect you? He might go with taxes, which is true. That's a whole different topic. But other than the taxes, potentially, of subsidizing the medicine, which is expensive, they have nothing to do with you.
Government, and saying we're going to invoke the government decision-making over and above physicians, over and above healthcare, over and above parents, and saying you can't do that.
So you believe it's healthcare.
You cannot engage in that.
Whoa. Yes, I do believe it's healthcare. What do you think it is, Tucker? Like, what do you think this is, recreation? Like, what are you talking about? No, you've got to. So you think it's healthcare? He's trying to make fun of him. Like, you think it's healthcare? No, what do you think it is? Yes, health is a healthcare issue. Why are you so concerned? Like, why are you so upset about this? I mean, I can understand we can disagree, but you sound like personally affected.
Deeply have you studied this topic? With respect, it doesn't sound like you've studied it very deeply. I mean, this is an emerging field. There's not a lot of research, but the research that exists suggests that depression and the urge to self-harm and suicide is a side effect of taking these hormones. A study in the UK showed the overwhelming majority of children on puberty-blocking hormones had the urge to hurt themselves. Why is that responsible medicine to do that to children? Why would you support something like that?
Well, I do have support. I do have support for my take. There was a study, it was just a year ago. If you just do a quick Google search, it came up on CNN. Study first of its kind to examine access to pubertal suppression and suicidality was published Thursday in the Medical Journal of Pediatrics. So that research, there is research there. There's also smaller studies here that have shown that people who have undergone puberty blocking treatments early in life, along with psychological support, have better mental health outcomes later in life. So there are studies. So, and that took literally 30 seconds to find these. So now I'm looking at Tucker. Now because he's trying to really make you look stupid, talking about you didn't do your research. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back. Well, Tucker, I do have actually multiple studies, but since it's clear you didn't think I was prepared, you've got the budget and you've got a whole production team. Let me see if you found these studies before I give them to you. Did you and your production team find these studies that I have that I'm about to give you that do support it? And if he says yes, then great. Great. Those are the same studies. If he says no or dodges the question, then it's a time where you can say, yeah, it looks like I was prepared, Tucker, and you and your budget and your production team, you guys were looking for bias studies to serve your point, and you weren't prepared. So let me educate you and your viewers. You can't let him do that to you. Man, this is ugly. Wow.
Well, I actually reviewed some of that study. I reviewed the high court decision there,
So weak.
and I think they are different than what you're
These
talking about
establishment
here.
guys are so
Sure,
weak
there's a
and
lot of
feckless.
unknowns here.
Wow.
I studied this bill in contrast to what you just said. I spent a lot of time reviewing cases,
Look at
meeting
Tucker's
with
face.
people, listening to the experts, as well as to faith leaders as well. And I'm a person of faith, but at the same
person of
time, I'm a
faith.
person of limited role of government.
to do with
I
anything?
signed pro-life bills. I signed many bills that would be looked at as very conservative, but this is one that crosses the line. There's no
He has
need
the
for
stronger
it.
Hold on.
ideological.
I'm sorry, but hold on. You
doesn't
say there's no need
justify
for it, but
itself.
you've said that you've seen research that shows the mental health of children who receive puberty-blocking drugs improves. What is that research exactly?
Well, the research that I've seen shows that these troubled youth, these ones that have gender
didn't do it with
dysphoria,
conviction.
that
He was not
they
sure.
also have depression. They have suicidal tendencies. It's a higher suicide rate than others. And they go to their parents. The parents go to doctors, and they try to deal with this very difficult issue. I don't think we should deny them health
Hold on,
care.
wait, no, wait, hold on. I'm sorry. You're the governor. You just vetoed this bill. You said you're familiar with the studies. No one disputes that children who are asking for puberty-blocking drugs or been recommended to their parents or doctors may be depressed. That seems very likely. I think the studies show it. Cite one specific study that shows puberty-blocking drugs improves the condition. Does it make children less depressed? Does it make them less likely to harm themselves, to commit suicide? Just name one study that shows that, please.
He's so busy trying to show him up. The study is right here. Result after gender reassignment in young adulthood, the GD was elevated and psychological functioning had steadily improved. Well-being was similar to or better than the same age young adults from the general population. Improvements in psychological functioning were positively correlated with post-surgical subjective well-being. This is young adult psychological outcome after puberty suppression and gender reassignment. And there was so there's two studies in here at least.
Well, I would refer you to the American Academy of Pediatrics. I would refer you to the physicians that came out in opposition to this bill because they understood the risk to these young people. And if you prohibit the medical care that this bill prohibits, then you're going to endanger these young people even further. So I would
But
cite
how do
all
we
of
know
those
that?
medical
Hold on,
experts.
this field barely existed 10 years ago. Cases of gender dysphoria, so-called, have increased by thousands of percent in the last decade. So actually, we can't know the answers to these questions. The research that we have suggests the opposite of what you're claiming. You clearly aren't familiar with the research. And so my question is, have you spoken to any of the biggest employers, the big companies in Arkansas, about this? Have you taken any calls from Tyson's, from Dillard, from Walmart? Has anyone from those companies called you about this bill?
So, Tucker, you just said that there's not a lot of research in this field. So neither one of us are standing on solid ground. Why do you feel your ground is better? I just cited you a couple studies that support my case. There are some that support your case. So that's where we're at. So then we should leave it up to the medical professionals, their family, the guardians of the minor and the minor. I don't know what type of beliefs you have, Tucker, but you jumping into that decision, we don't need Tucker at the family table discussing it. They're good. They don't need you there. You can disagree. You can bloviate on your show every night. But when it comes down to making those tough decisions, there's a certain sensitivity that we need to have for those. And you don't need to be involved. And as far as the companies, Tucker is going down this route of woke companies influencing politics. And he doesn't answer the question well, where you've got to say, there is no, my decision here to leave that choice up to the family has nothing to do with corporations. They didn't talk to me. I didn't talk to them. They have no business, just like I don't. The government doesn't, and you don't.
No, but Tucker, you're saying, first of all,
You haven't
there's
spoken
no
to
studies,
one
and then you cite a
corporate
study.
interest. No. There is not a single study that I'm aware of that shows an improvement in the mental health
funny,
of children
Tucker?
who take puberty blockers, who are chemically castrated. And you couldn't cite one. You're not familiar with the research. You were told by doctors that it's a good idea, and you went with it. But I just want to clarify very quickly. Have you, and I just want to be clear on this, have you spoken to any corporate interest in the state of Arkansas about this bill?
Tucker, I answered that. I answered that question.
That's not good. You just need to reiterate the point to get back at him. Tucker, those companies don't have any say in a family and doctor decision. What kind of country are you for? I'm a proud American, Tucker, and I believe in the right for that decision to be made without us being there.
And I said, no, I have not.
No,
You have
not.
another question.
Okay.
Bad.
I'm skeptical because
Tucker?
we've certainly seen across the. Let me just say,
Yeah,
Governor,
his
with
answer
respect,
wasn't good
I'm
enough.
skeptical that not a single corporation in the state of Arkansas has weighed in with you one way or the other on this bill. I'm skeptical.
You asked me if I had talked to them.
Tucker, I'm skeptical of your ideology, and you frighten me. Like you sound like you're running for president, and now the thought of you as president getting into my personal life with my decision with my kids and my doctor, it frightens me. Gloves are off. We're throwing down right now at this point with ideas, not personal attacks, not like that, but we're going to throw down with ideas.
Said I hadn't. Let me emphasize, Tucker, you are a conservative. You have a great background in that. Where are we getting back to the limited role of government, that we don't have
He's
to
not
invoke
your
ourselves
friend.
in every societal position out there? Let's limit the role of government.
Okay,
Let's let parents and doctors make decisions.
Then why don't we allow 18-year-olds to drink beer in Arkansas? Why don't we allow them to get tattoos? Why don't we allow 15-year-olds?
If you're 18-year-olds, I think should be allowed to drink beer. I don't see a reason why they aren't. But let's go to underage, because we're talking about underage. If someone's 16 and wants to drink beer, and their parents agree on it, and a doctor says they have to drink beer, then I'm all for them drinking beer. Does that make any sense to you, Tucker? Why are you comparing those two things?
Year-olds to get married. You vetoed a bill that would have protected children, not adults, children, to whom a different standard applies from a life-altering permanent procedure that has effects we can only guess at, but the early indication is they're very serious and very negative in some cases. And now
I'm protecting them from dictator Tucker. That's your opinion. They have a right to have a different opinion.
telling me you do that because you're a friend of limited government? Okay, then why are we preventing kids from drinking? Sincere question. Or getting married? Sincere question. Having sex? They're not old enough to have sex,
bro,
but they're old enough to be chemically
so...
castrated? How does that work exactly? I'll listen as you explain.
Well, thank you, Tucker. And first of all, these are difficult decisions. Do you want to listen to the medical profession? Do you want to listen to professional counselors? Do you want to listen to parents? Or do you want to leave all these decisions to the legislators that come from all different kinds of background? Yes, they're elected to represent you, but they do not necessarily make the right judgments for parents and for doctors in the most sensitive issues.
Why are we regulating the behavior of children at all if we're allowing children to decide? And by the way, I read a study today that showed the overwhelming majority of kids who do not take life-altering hormones in the end decide not to, quote, transition to a new sex. So there's a lot going on here, but I'm asking as a conservative, you just invoked Ronald Reagan as if he were for chemical castration of children.
Should have never brought Reagan
up. What other behavior should we not use the power of the state to regulate?
He thinks he's on Fox News like he's on friendly territory or something.
Well, you debate it every time. And so, look, Tucker, you want to keep talking or you want me to answer a question? Tucker,
I sincerely want you to.
That means you lost.
Well, thank you. And so whenever whether it's beer for minors, these are all issues that you have to address the legislature. You make judgment calls on it. But
Tucker, are you comparing drinking a 40-ounce to the seriousness of a decision of gender reassignment? Like, do you have any comprehension of how far off those two things are? That's your comparison?
But we also try to restrain ourselves as conservatives and say we don't have to be involved in every issue. And if you want to broaden the party, if you want to get back to the principles, then let's at least think through in a reasoned way as to whether this is the right bill to interfere with parents.
Well, that's the end of it. I'm going to go out because it's so tough to watch someone that unprepared. I'm not some great debater. I don't have all the answers. I would be much worse than him. If I went on with Tucker and I was unprepared, I would get destroyed worse than he was. But I wouldn't go on Tucker unprepared. It's a simple topic. Now, I can understand if you go on expecting to talk about this and then he switches up and you're not prepared. That happens sometimes. But you knew what you were going to talk about. He was right on topic. He threw easy softballs for you. You should have known it was going to be hostile. You weren't ready. Just so terrible. And fundamentally, I do strongly believe, Tucker, stay out of people's lives. Why are you throwing politics into their decision? That shouldn't happen at all. Well, I just wanted to get that off my chest because I saw the interview and it was tough to watch. But let me know what you think. Thanks a lot for listening. Take care.